Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we saw how attention stops being voluntary. It begins to return on its own, pulled by expectation and memory. Now we move further. Because once attention is no longer controlled, something deeper changes. Your emotional state begins to respond to it. And here's the question guiding this lesson. How does attention turn into emotional dependence? At first, attention and emotion feel separate. You think about something, but your state remains stable. But as attention becomes focused on a specific source, that begins to change. Your emotional state starts to shift depending on what happens there. Now look at what happens next. A response brings relief. Silence creates tension. A small interaction changes how you feel. The emotional state is no longer stable on its own. It becomes linked to something outside of you. This shift does not feel like dependence. It feels like caring, like connection, like emotional involvement. You might think, of course I react. It matters. And that interpretation feels correct. But look carefully. The intensity of the reaction is no longer proportional to the situation. Each time tension is followed by relief, the pattern strengthens. You feel unsettled, then something happens, and you feel better. That contrast reinforces the connection. Not because the situation is stable, but because the emotional shift is noticeable. Compare two people. Both experience the same interaction. One remains steady, the other feels clear emotional shifts. The difference is not the situation. It is how much their state is tied to it. You see this across contexts. In relationships, mood changes depending on communication. At work, emotional state shifts based on feedback or response. In social dynamics, attention from others influences how someone feels. In each case, emotion becomes linked to external input. So return to the question, how does attention turn into emotional dependence? Over the next few days, notice what affects your state. Not just what you think about, but what changes how you feel. Observe when that shift happens, because once your emotional state depends on something external, your stability is no longer fully your own. In the next lesson, we move into something even more direct, how emotional dependence turns into the need for reassurance.